The new enhanced ACT is here. For any students taking the ACT in 2025 and beyond, you are taking a brand new version of the ACT, and here is the big problem. Many students don't know about it, and they're using old versions of the test to prepare. If you've been using any practice tests that look like this, or any books other than this specific book, the test you are taking this weekend is going to look different. So in this video, I'm going to go through the most important tips you need to know about the big changes to the new test. I'm going to introduce you also to some really quick tips and strategies and hacks that you guys can use to improve your score in less than 2 hours of studying so you can score better on your test this weekend. Now let's talk about what has or hasn't changed on the new enhanced version of the ACT. And the first good news for many of you is the content tested really has not changed very much. I'll talk about some minor changes later in this video, but overall, the grammar rules being tested, the math concept being tested, what generally reading and science looks like, the test still has basically the same bones. It's testing the same content. So even if you have been preparing with old materials and old versions of the ACT, a lot of that prep actually still is going to help you. So good, complete disaster averted as far as that goes for many of you. Now, what actually has changed? Well, what has changed is the structure of the test. And what you can kind of see on the screen now is we can see the differences. So overall, the test used to have more questions and be a little bit faster paced. They've slowed it down, as you guys can kind of see on the right-hand side. There are now fewer questions overall, and there are more time per question on average. So on the old English test, we used to have 75 questions in only 45 minutes. Now we have 50 questions, 35 minutes. Of course, that is giving you more time per question. The math test is the one where it looks like it's changed, but it really hasn't changed too much. It used to be 60 minutes, 60 questions. Now it's 50 minutes, 45 questions. I know that sounds nicer, but I'll talk about later in the video how it's really not that much different. The reading test, they gave you 5 more minutes, 4 fewer questions. This is a huge advantage because timing is one of the biggest challenges for a lot of students in reading. Same with science, they gave you 5 more minutes in this one, same number of questions. So overall, again, the ACT, if you're taking the science, the length is pretty much the same as it used to be because they gave you that extra time in reading and science, but it is now a friendlier test from the pacing perspective. And again, overall, much of the content is the same. So definitely make sure for the new version of the test, you memorize the pacings that you see on the screen now. If you have been using old ACTs, again, the pacing you're used to is gonna be a little bit different. So make sure you have these memorized so you can apply these on test day and make sure you're sharp on the pace for the new enhanced ACT. The other big change is that the science is now optional. So some students are signed up to take it with the science, some without. So definitely make sure you check your registration and see if you're signed up to take it with or without the science so you know ahead of time before your test tomorrow. That does affect the scoring. Now the composite score is based on your English, math, and reading score. Science is technically an optional side score. At this point, we don't know exactly how colleges are going to view it. Some colleges might come out and say they require the science, they prefer the science. So I'm definitely recommend all of my students prepare for and take the science. But of course, if you're taking the ACT this weekend and you're already signed out without the science, not a huge deal. Just go in there, do the best you can. I would just recommend next time you take the ACT, probably a good idea to sign up with the science just in case. All right, let's get started with the English test. Now, good news about English, this is one of the easiest places to cram and improve your score super quickly. So even if you're just kind of seeing this video and you're taking the test in a couple hours or you're studying the night before, you can actually do some English work that will jump your English score 2, 3, even 4 or more points. So overall English, we're going to see 35 minutes, 50 questions. I'm going to test you on a variety of topics. And on the new version of the ACT, they actually tell you exactly what each question is testing on. This is one big change. Before, if we just saw questions like this, it would just give you those answer choices. Now, it'll tell you, number 1, this is a grammar question. Number 2 is a grammar question. It's going to now tell you when we have questions that are testing you on, say, number 6 is asking about the essay's tone, or 7 is about redundancy. So this is a big change. Make sure, even if you have been studying for the ACT previously, that you don't skip by these and look at a question like, say, a lot of students look at number 1 here and go, oh, this looks like a transitions question, even though it tells us grammar. Oops. So make sure, of course, we follow the directions on the test and make our lives easy. Now, pacing on ACT English is also important. On the new test, we're going to have a total of 6 passages. 4 will have 10 questions, 2 will have 5. The pacing I like to tell you guys is 7 minutes for every 10 questions. So every 10 questions, just check your watch, see where you're at, follow the pacing that you see on the screen here. If you do, you'll be good to go. Now I want to share some quick score boosting hacks here. There are 2 types of questions that a lot of students struggle with, but they're really easy to get right if you know these 2 simple tips. The first one are tone questions, like we see here, number 6. It says, which choice most effectively maintains the essay's tone? Now, a lot of times students see these questions are thinking, well, what am I supposed to pick? They all kind of seem the same. My main advice here is go for the middle. What do I mean by that? Well, tone questions are basically asking you to pick an answer choice that matches the tone of the rest of the passage. And generally speaking, ACT passages are written in kind of a middle tone. They're not overly fancy with crazy vocab and crazy flowery language. They're also not super casual. So we want to find language that matches the middle. So if we're looking at this one here, we would basically read some context. So let's say we read from here. Atala began persuading producers to cultivate Amazonian pupunha palms, I can't really say that one, which grow clusters of stems, each with a small heart. Carefully harvesting ensures that trees will live to yield more hearts, resulting in environmentally friendly production. Okay, so here we have that option. We have pull through and spawn, continue to churn out, or keep doling out. Well, here our answer is going to be F. This one matches like the level of language in the past, just kind of that middle we're looking for. If I say like pull through and spawn, like, oh, they're pulling through, like, that doesn't really make sense here, a little bit too casual. Same with like continue to churn out, like churning out is more like how you might kind of talk more casually about something to your friends. Like keep doling out, again, this just doesn't really match the language in the past. So we're looking for that middle. Now the second one we can hack is actually right next door here, least redundancy questions. So questions like number 7, if it asks you which choice is the least redundant in the context, all you got to do is follow this simple rule. Pick the shortest answer choice. Go short pretty much every single time because we want to make sure we're not being overly wordy or repeating information. And here, if we kind of read for context, it says Atala prioritizes working relationships with Amazonian tribes, utilizing their historical know-how they have or knowledge that tribe members must know about local plants, blah, blah. Okay, so let's start with F or A, sorry. Know-how they have, well, if you already have know-how, you have it. So that's redundant saying know-how they have. B, knowledge that tribe members know about local plants. Well, it already talks about the tribe members and utilizing their knowledge. So that's redundant. Same with C, knowledge of local plants in the area. Well, being local, being in the area is the same thing. So that one's wrong. Of course, just knowledge of local plants is our correct answer here. So all we're doing here is making sure we pick an answer choice that isn't redundant and go short. You'll probably see 2 or 3 of these questions on test day. Super, super easy points. Now, grammar questions are also really, really easy to improve. I'm going to share a quick hack with you and also a resource you guys can use to improve your grammar super, super quickly so you can get another 2, 3, 4, 5 questions right and really boost your English score on your test this weekend. Now, first one here is who versus whom. They love to test who versus whom. Almost guaranteed you're going to see one of these, and all you need to memorize is this little hack. Who is always followed by a verb, and whom is always followed by a noun when it appears in the ACT. So all you got to do is look at the next word. So here we see who have been. Well, have is an action, so basically that tells me who is followed by a verb. Answer here is going to be F. The other thing I recommend doing is go to the free trial of my Ultimate ACT course and work through the English portion of the free trial. It is going to include a lot of the most commonly tested grammar rules, things like our commas and fanboys, 4 types of commas, learning how semicolons work, learning what I like to call the names rule. These are going to really quickly give you the tools to boost your score on the ACT this weekend. Let's talk ACT math. So here what you have is 50 minutes, you have 45 questions. On the old version of the ACT, there were 60 minutes, 60 questions. So I know it might sound like you have more time, but realistically, it's pretty much the same because all they did is take away some of the easier questions at the front. And speaking of that, the test increase in difficulty. So as you go through ACT math, it starts easy, gets more medium, and gets more difficult. From around questions 30 to 45, those last 10 or 15 questions are going to be the most difficult. So important tip here as you're going through is make sure you don't get stuck in any one question for too long. There might be topics that you haven't learned before, you haven't studied. There's some more random stuff in the test like ellipses or vectors or matrices. There's more advanced trig stuff. There's also old stuff you might have forgotten or your teacher never taught you in school. So the math is really, really, of course, hard to cram. Realistically, you should get a proper resource and give yourself 3 or 4 months or more to study for the ACT math. But if you are here, of course, we're cramming. So what can we do? Well, number 1, we can memorize equations. They don't give you many equations at ACT, so we have to have our geometry equations and all sorts of other equations memorized. So if you basically check it on the screen now, I'll give you guys a download of this in the free Trial Ultimate ACT course. This is the equation sheet. There's tons of equations here you should memorize, so you, of course, know how to solve these on test day. The other one you can quickly learn is there's a full chapter of my book in the free trial, and videos of me teaching it on matrices. So if you see these on the screen now and you're like, what the heck are those matrices? I never learned those at school. It's pretty normal. I have a lot of students who never seen these before. They are very commonly tested on the ACT. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to see them on your test this weekend, but very likely to see one of these questions. So you can head over and learn that chapter very, very quickly. You might see one question or two questions on these. It can help you quickly boost your score. So again, memorize those equations, learn that matrices chapter. If you've been doing other prep work, of course, review some of the math you've done previously, learn from those mistakes, and then do the best you can on your test this weekend. Of course, long term, get a copy of my ACT math book, actually do the prep and practice so you're actually ready for this when you take it again in the future. Let's talk the reading test. On the new ACT, you now have 40 minutes and there are 36 questions. Now, if you had been previously preparing for the old version of the ACT or using some of those old ones when you're practicing, you might be thinking, oh, this looks great. What you actually have now is 5 more minutes and 4 fewer questions. So it should definitely help with the pacing and, of course, the time management. Now, if you've never done an ACT before, definitely make sure you do at least 1 or 2 of what I call the 10-minute drills here. What it is just we're going to do one passage at a time. It's just helping you with the pacing, getting used to how the ACT works. So grab your phone, set a 10-minute timer, of course, download this practice test, and just try passage number 1 here. Just basically work through all 9 of these questions and then stop the timer and see where you're at. Basically repeat it as many times as you can. Even just doing 1 or 2 of these is going to help you with the pacing, because the biggest issue students have with the reading on the ACT is being able to manage the pace correctly and finish it on time. Now I want to share one other hack that could potentially really, really boost your score. So what you see here is the scoring key. And notice on the reading test, this whole first passage is not scored. On the new ACT, there are some questions, there's experimental questions that don't actually count towards your score. They're just using them to kind of see how you guys do and help create future tests. Don't worry too much about that. But all you need to know is on the reading, there are 4 passages, but only 3 of them count towards your score. So my guess is, since one of these don't count, they're not going to make the last passage the one that doesn't count, which means we can be smart and make sure if you are running out of time or tight on time, that we do the passages out of order. So like I said, you have 10 minutes per passage. So first passage, boom, check your watch, 10 minutes, great. Second passage, check your watch. If after the first 2 passages you are behind it all, or you're tight on time, or you know you're running out of time on the reading, I recommend jump to passage 4 and then come back to passage 3. If passage 4 is the one that isn't scored, it's going to basically inflate everyone's scores, because if students run out of time, they generally run out of time and don't get the last passage. So I think the ACT is not going to make that last passage the one that isn't scored, at least on one of these first versions of the ACT of the new enhanced one. So my hack here is, again, if you are tight on time or running out of time, make sure you go out of order. If you do run out of time, I would rather you run out of time on one of the first 3 passages, because my best guess is one of those 3 might be the one that doesn't count, and the last one's the one that is going to count, and be one again of those 3 that does count towards your score. Now let me address the science test. And again, on the new ACT, remember the science test is optional. So some of you might be signed up to take it. Some of you might sign up, of course, not to take it. If you are signed up to take it, which I recommend right now, because some colleges might end up requiring it, let's talk some basics about science. And first thing, let's get rid of a big myth here. The science test in the ACT is not science. It is more of a random, basically, assortment of charts and graphs and data you have to interpret. So again, I like to say science is not a science test. It is a reading charts and graphs on random topics quickly test. So it is very different from school. So if you've never done ACT science before and you're taking it this weekend, make sure you do some practice passages here. I'll talk about that more at the end. Now, first, let me give you guys some quick advice. Overall science, 40 minutes, 40 questions. That means your pacing is 1 minute per question. Makes it super easy to keep track of your pace as you're going on this test. Now, overall, what we're going to see 7 total passages. 6 of the passages look more like this one here with charts and graphs and data. When we get to these passages, what I don't want you to do is don't start trying to read and understand everything. That's a lot of, what's the mistake a lot of students make if they've never done or seen science before. So you don't have to read all of it. For all these charts and graphs passages, I actually tell my students, just go straight to the questions and work backwards. The questions will tell you where to go. Like here it says, based on table 2 or based on figure 1. Go to table 2, go to figure 1. You can go back and, of course, find the information you need, and you can read the text as you need to. Of course, long term, to be fully prepared for science, you have to have got some coaching and done some practice tests. But for now, if you even use this tip, it should help you manage time better and do better on the test. Now, like I said, there are 6 charts and graphs passages. One of these is going to look a little bit different, and you're going to see generally way more text, and we're going to see these headings on the one conflicting viewpoints passage. Notice here we see like student 1, student 2, student 3. It'll often say student. It might give you different scientists or different hypotheses. When we see this, what we want to do is just actually read this. So do read this, because all the questions will be about like who agrees with this, who disagrees with this. So reading this first is going to make it a little bit easier to go through. Of course, it's going to take a little bit longer because we have to read more, but that's an okay trade-off as we go through on these ones. Now, other important thing to do is, like I said, let's do a couple of practice passages. I just call it like the 5 or 6 minute drill. So basically, grab this test. There's a download down below for this one again. So just grab this test and be like, all right, I'm just going to set a timer, 5 questions here, set a timer for 5 minutes, and go do this passage. It's just practicing kind of how to do the science, getting accustomed to it, and then repeat that. Go to the second passage, try this conflicting viewpoints one. Again, there are 5 questions on this one, so give yourself 5 minutes, and you can kind of repeat that process, working through as many of these as you have time for. Even if you just have time to do 2 or 3 of these passages, it should help make you feel more comfortable with science, so you actually understand how to approach it, and you, of course, know what you're doing for when you take the ACT this weekend. All right, so like I said at the start, let's say you're taking 2 hours, you're in a cram. What do you guys do the next 2 hours? So number 1, head over and sign up for the free trial My Ultimate ACT course. You can work through the English part of the free trial and the matrices part of the math. Also, make sure you download that math equation sheet and spend some time memorizing those equations tonight and tomorrow so you can do better on the math. Also, down below there's a link to a practice ACT that's been released by the ACT. It is one of the new enhanced versions. Check out and work through, or basically download that, and then make sure you do at least one 10-minute drill with one of those reading passages and work on one basically 5 or 6 minute drill with the science passages. Again, just for reading, give yourself 10 minutes and try a reading passage. Get used to how the test feels, get used to the pacing. For science, just do 2 or 3 passages. Just set a timer for the number of questions you have. If it's 5 questions in the passage, 5 minutes, 6 questions in the passage, 6 minutes. All of this should help you learn some content for the English and the math that's going to help. It'll help you get used to the pacing and, of course, the test for reading and science. And again, overall, this quick cram can help you guys gain a couple points on your test tomorrow. Now, of course, beyond that, if you're watching this video and you're cramming for tomorrow, likely we haven't been properly preparing, which means you're probably going to take the test again. So let me give you guys some quick advice looking ahead into the future. So if you guys are seniors and you're running out of time, you will likely be looking at taking the test again in October. You can take the ACT in October and have it in time for your early action, early decision ones. Or even if you don't have the scores back in time, you can always follow up your application with those scores. You can even take regular application in December. So again, if you're a senior, you go, you know what, I'm kind of late to the game, I got to start prepping. Of course, start prepping now. Don't wait for your scores to come back in a couple weeks. Go proactively, sign up for October, sign up for December, the test dates you can take, and just start that prep. If you start that process early, it's going to make it much, much easier. Now, if you're a junior, of course, you have a lot more time. So your timeline should kind of depend on maybe how busy your schedule is, but also the math you're taking. If you're more advanced in math, you're already taking you're already taking calculus or beyond. Start your prep now. You're going to start forgetting the math the further you go. So again, look at those October test dates, those December test dates. If math is not your strength, let's say you're a regular math student, or you're just taking pre-calc this year, the more math you cover in the ACT is going to make it easier. So maybe try it for a first time, or your next time look ahead to maybe December or February, maybe take it again in April. You can always even take it in June or July and use some summertime to prep, or even beyond that. So, make those judgment calls. But overall, the main thing with ACT prep is make it consistent. You need to set a schedule. You need to set aside time. I usually tell my students, give yourself like 3 months to properly prepare for the ACT. So again, plan to do that. I would highly recommend checking out my Ultimate ACT course. You guys should already be heading over to the free trial. If you enjoy that free trial, the full course is just $99 a month. It is a super affordable way. It has been, to get prepared, it's been fully updated for the enhanced ACT. I'll be adding lots more content as we go. There's already 70 plus hours of videos in there. What it basically has is it's almost like having me as your private tutor. Normally, tutoring with me is $350 an hour, or it might be more now if you're looking at this video and it's been around for a couple years. It is the same stuff that I teach for way more affordable. So the goal is to make it, number one, that students of all different backgrounds can afford amazing test prep with someone like me. Number two, it's going to help you prep at your own pace and at your own time. So you can just log on whenever from home. So again, if you enjoy it, definitely encourage signing up. It would be a great way to go through and, of course, prepare. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully the cramming helps and you guys have some great scores and you can sign off and be done with this. Of course, if not, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, come back and check out more content with us. Happy to help guide you guys through all your ACT prep work. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Of course, click to follow so you guys can see all the future videos I'll be throwing out there. Other than that, this is Matt at Prep Pros. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.